Hello, it's Rachel here. I'm the founder of the Mutton Club and of the Flock, and hopefully this will be broadcast. This is being broadcast on the Magnificent Midlife from the Mutton Club page and also into our private Facebook group, the Flock. So let me know where you're watching from if you're catching this. Let me know where in the world you're watching from. Say hello, give me a heart across the screen or a like or anything like that, because that all makes these things rather fun. So anyway, today I thought I would come in and have a little chat about early menopause, because I also want to welcome all of the new followers that we have both to the page and in the private Facebook group, The Flock. Now, we've had a lot of new sign-ups recently, and that is, I think, because I did an interview on BBC Radio 4 Woman's Hour. And one of the reasons I did that was I was talking about early menopause, and also even though I'd had an early menopause, my overall perception of menopause was a very positive one. So I want to welcome everybody, say hello, thank you for joining us. And I've had a few questions from the people that have joined, people asking about early menopause and how to cope with it. And I talked with one woman in particular, and she was really struggling with early menopause. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to her and talk to you today is to reassure you, if you're going through early menopause, it will all be all right. Okay, it will be fine. You will be fine. It will pass. Even if it's difficult now, it will pass, and you will get back to being who you are. Because I went through it. It happened to me, and I survived. So what happened? How did I? One of the questions I had was, how did I know that I was in early menopause, or how did I know that I was perimenopausal? Well, I didn't. And this was the interesting thing, you see, because I didn't have any symptoms at all. So I hadn't even noticed that my periods had probably gone a bit awry. They must have gone awry, because actually menopause, the definition of menopause, is that you've been a whole year without having had any periods at all. So I didn't even notice that. And I think probably my diagnosis would have been wrong now, looking back. I think they'd have decided that my hormones were fluctuating rather than that I was actually fully postmenopausal. And in fact, I went to see a nutritionist. I went to see Dr. Marilyn Glenville for a time. And she put me on a special diet, and she told me to avoid certain things like caffeine, like alcohol, like sugar, which are things I mentioned in the Woman's Hour program. And she put me on a special tincture, and I actually got my periods back for a while, which was quite strange. So how did I find out? I found out because I had a hormone test. And why did I have a hormone test? I had a hormone test because I was trying for a child with my second husband. And we have 4 between us. So I had 1 and he has 3. And I was kind of trying to even up the numbers a bit. But it wasn't to be, sadly. But looking back, I think perhaps, it was quite sensible in a way, because now at 51, if we had been successful, I'd have had an under 10-year-old running around, whereas actually I have 19-plus-year-olds not running around, actually sleeping in bed and not getting up most of the time. So it's a different set of issues, isn't it? But yeah, I think on reflection, probably a good thing. So how did I cope with the early menopause diagnosis? Well, you can imagine at 41 and trying for a child, desperately trying for a child. I mean, I'd wanted another one since I had my first, and I know how fortunate I am to have one, because I know there are a lot of women out there who go through early menopause much earlier than me and who have never had their own child. But it was still devastating. It was still, because it went to the core of everything I believed about myself. Which is also part of what is wrapped up in our perceptions of ourselves as we age, and our idea of fertility and beauty, all being wrapped up around going through menopause. So Mutton Club is about sort of challenging all of that, because I don't believe that we lose our beauty when we go through menopause. We don't lose our value and our relevance with our fertility. So changing all of that. So anyway, back to how I coped. First of all, I found an organisation called the Daisy Network, which I mentioned on the radio, which was incredibly helpful. I felt a little bit of a fraud with them, because I luckily had already had a child, and most of the women there hadn't been able to have their own biological child. Is that the right term? Anyway, they'd had to have egg donation or something like that, so they were able to give birth, which was wonderful. for a lot of them. So I found the Daisy Network, and I think over time I just sort of went through a period of analysing myself and looking inward and trying to change the narratives that I was hearing. So when I spoke to this woman, she said to me that she felt she'd been catapulted into middle age, and I could completely understand that, because I felt that too, because I was 41 and suddenly I was menopausal. But then I questioned that about myself, that there I was thinking that, you know, middle age was bad. Well, middle age to me then was, I was sort of ageist at 41 about who I am now at 51, which is sad, really. So yeah, it was my own perceptions of middle age and midlife. So I've tried to change those over time, and now personally I have a much more accepting approach to what middle age and midlife is. So there was the other issue that this lady mentioned, and she talked about that the narrative is that we have 30 good years after menopause. So if menopause comes early at, say, 41, does that mean I've only got until 71 to have a good, healthy life? And I remember having that worry. I remember having that concern. I've realised now that no, it's about how you look after yourself. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I won't know until I reach 70. But if I only get to 70, I'll be incredibly disappointed. I expect to be at least 90. Yes, quite frankly, at least 90. So what I wanted to say really was just, you know, if you are watching this, if you are going through menopause, early menopause, or even regular menopause, and you're struggling with it, then come on over, join us in our private Facebook group, The Flock. Ask any questions you like, the women in the flock, or on the page. Just ask the questions, because menopause is still rather taboo, but we are talking about it more, and everything's up for grabs. You know, just ask those questions, and if you have any questions now, you want to just fire them at me, I'm very happy to answer them now. Anything I can do to help. But the community is full of the most incredible, amazing women who, you know, if you have a question, they will pile in and try and answer it for you, or at least give you some advice, because we all like to try and help, don't we? But it will be all right, okay? You will survive and it'll be fine. So, and when you get the menopause stuff sorted, this is why I'm so passionate about, you know, people getting these issues raised, talked about, sorted. We can then get on with living our magnificent midlife. And that's what it's all about, really. I don't want us to be dragged down by, you know, perceptions of menopause, issues going through it. And it doesn't have to be difficult. As I say, it wasn't really, apart from the initial emotional reaction for me, it was not a difficult experience. Yes, I was on HRT, so I was put on, I fought it for a long time, didn't really want to go on HRT. I like to be a bit of a natural girl. But I did go on HRT because I was told that because I'd gone through early menopause early, 10 years early, I needed to protect my bones and my heart from that lack of estrogen. So I took HRT, I took the what's called body identical HRT. So I took estradiol, which was the estrogen, and I took something called progesterone, no, utrogestan, which was the progesterone. And those were, I believe they were yam based, so they're made from vegetable products and are as near identical to our hormone profile as it's possible to be, and certainly a lot better than things like Premarin from my perspective, which is made from pregnant mare's urine, and I really didn't want that. So I took those and I was fine, but I came off them when I reached normal menopause age, which was 51, which was last year. So I came off them then, and I weaned myself off, and I upped my natural phytoestrogens from things like flax seeds and soy milk, chickpeas. I live on hummus. And I try and keep my exercise up. I do yoga for my achy joints. If I don't go to yoga, I'm in trouble. I don't have any caffeine. I've kept that off. That was when I went to see the dietitian when I went through early menopause, and she said to me, cut out caffeine, and I've just stayed off it, and I just prefer to be off it. I still love my builder's tea with soy milk, but it's a decaf variety, but it's wonderful. I love it. I still drink alcohol, and I have chocolate. But when I came off the HRT, I did notice a direct correlation between alcohol and sugar in terms of giving me a hot flush. So when I came off the HRT, I had probably about 2-3 weeks, maybe a month of hot flushes, occasional hot flushes, usually related to having had alcohol or some sugar or some sort of sugar product. And then they stopped. So I was absolutely fine. So even though it was traumatic, I had a very positive experience. But come and join us in the flock. Ask any questions you may have. I've been prattling on for far too long now. And let's just get the menopausal stuff sorted so we can live our magnificent midlives. Thanks very much for joining me. Let me know where you're watching from if you've caught this. And thanks for listening. Okay, bye-bye.